anxious people in general, their energy, you feel it. You can feel it when they walk in a room. So if we can lower that temperature by teaching the parents how to do it, even for themselves, because usually the anxious child, preteen or teen, that evokes anxiety in a parent. And then we have that cycle that continues. Hence, break the anxiety cycle has to start from the top down.
Good morning and welcome to In the Know with KO. I'm your host, Kristen Adams, also known as KO. Today, I have an absolute rock star of a guest that I cannot wait to introduce you to. But before I get into that nitty gritty and we dive into her area of expertise, I am going to throw a little rapid fire at her. So, Dr. Marnee Firestone, are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Cats or dogs?
Doggies.
Yeah. Mountains or oceans?
Oceans.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Okay. iPhone or Android?
Android.
Ooh. I feel like I learned so much about people in rapid fire. Sneakers or sandals?
Sneakers.
Should have known that today. And then last, sunshine or rain?
Oh, I'm a sunshine gal.
All right. See, I actually always find out a lot about guests doing rapid fire. We have a lot in common, minus the Android.
Most people don't have Androids. But
that's okay. You know what? Everyone has their reasons. So I want to share a brief bio about you. This is like barely scratching the surface, but I want to give our listeners an opportunity to understand your area of expertise and how you got to where you are. So Dr. Marnee Firestone is a licensed clinical psychologist whose approach is rooted in the biopsychosocial model, which we'll talk about in a minute. She has published numerous articles, been featured in national print and online media, and served as a guest lecturer at schools and universities. She's been a guest on several parenting podcasts and webinars, and today on my show. Woo-hoo! Yay! I'm so excited. Yay. In addition to having her private practice, Dr. Marnee co-founded Break the Anxiety Cycle. This is a program that helps parents of anxious teens. Anyone can relate? Yeah, raise your hand. The program teaches effective, practical strategies to support teens in building confidence, pursuing their goals, and creating a calmer, more harmonious home. Who doesn't want that? Like, are you kidding me right now? I mean, I feel like regardless of the age of your children, you want that. Is that not right? Good morning. Yes.
Good morning. So good to see you.
I know. So just to give the listeners a brief tidbit, how we met. We not only live in the same neighborhood, but now we play for the same tennis team. And although you have an injury you're recovering from, I know you'll be back out there soon enough.
Can't wait.
I know. We can't wait to have you back.
So sweet.
I know. And we had an opportunity to talk recently, and I learned so much more about the depth of your practice. And I think that you yourself, as an overcomer and survivor of your own milestones in life, has given you empathy for your clients, which I feel only fuels their success because they hear you speaking not only from a knowledgeable standpoint as their doctor, but from a mom with a heart. And I can definitely see, that's probably something that's always evolving. What was your motivation to get into the therapeutic field?
So this is a very true but funny story. When I was in high school, my parents sat me and my sister down and talked to us about wanting to have another child, which, by the way, was just disgusting. Who wants their parents to be thinking about or talking about, which means sex,
right?
having another child? So I voted no, and it's very well known I voted no. Unfortunately, no, just kidding. My brother came along, who I'm super close with, and I learned about child development through him. Oh. So he changed my life. This is all his fault.
Okay. And what is your brother's name?
Jesse Bandler Firestone.
Okay, Jesse, we're blaming you for all of her success.
Yes, without a doubt.
That's excellent. Well, Marnee, your work is so important. And I think that all parents, myself included, we all struggle with, are we doing enough? Are we doing it right? And how can I connect with my teen, right? I mean, I feel regardless of the dynamic in your household, You can be married for 30 years and have the same mom and dad under the same roof. You can be divorced. You can have blended families, step families. I don't think any of that matters. I think parents still question those specific things, and it's important to parents, right?
Tremendously important. And what happened to all of us during COVID was a profound shift in knowing what is true in the sense of safety. And am I doing enough for my kids, not just socially and scholastically, but familially, extracurricular, like all of those leaves.
Yeah.
And it made a really big impact on everybody. And I just didn't have enough room, literally room in my schedule to help people. And it was, in a way, painful for me to say, I can't take in on anybody else for myself, but also I have no room.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine because like I said, I clearly see the empathy you offer to parents and families and also the heart that you have to serve them in this capacity. And I think that's clearly what is separating you from some of the other doctors in your field that I have met and talked with. And I think that is tremendous because I think when you have a specific gift and you make it so available, but you've customized it with your specific program, I think the approach that you have with creating practical tools to empower teenagers and parents for long-term success, I'm just speaking as my own self as a mom. I am a mom. I'm a stepmom. We have a blended family. We've had our share of challenges and we've questioned lots of things. And thankfully, my husband and I, we have a good partnership. But I think that the approach that you have is very unique. I would love for you to share about the biopsychosocial model.
So I'm going to backtrack a little bit if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
So in my practice, I just turned 50 this summer.
Woo, congratulations. That's a huge milestone. Oh my gosh. I want to look like that when I'm 50.
You're so cute.
Only a couple years.
So in my practice over the years, I realized that working one-on-one with kids, preteens and teens, it's impossible, and I really mean impossible, to make long-lasting change without having the system change. And who's in charge of the system? Mom and dad. So I refuse, and it's now been several years, to work with anybody that I don't have access to the parents. So if I can work with parents first from that top-down approach, I can make major impact not just on that little family, but I can then teach that family's next family. When you teach a child, you teach your child's child. Let me say that again, because that's actually really big.
That is very profound.
When you teach a child, you teach your child's child.
That is very true because we only know what we know. And that is, you're right. How many times have we opened our mouths to say something or gone to do something and I'm like, oh my gosh, I sound like my mother, right? It's very generational. Wow.
And if I can give parents tools of how to do this a bit better, their teens will be better. Their preteens will be better. Their children will be better. So it doesn't actually matter which age we're talking about. It's just the approach to parenting.
I can completely understand that. That is very logical.
Thank you.
That is very logical. But, it sounds so simple, but you've clearly put, well over 20 years of knowledge and experience into creating something that is now, it's not a one size fits all by any means, but it's something that can be specifically customized to suit each child and family.
Absolutely. So when I work with families, I try and understand who they are and provide tools that work for them. So I'm going to give you a perfect example of a family I was working with yesterday. So these are sports people, which is great. They're professional parents, but their kids are into sports. I have 2 boys. They're sports guys. So coming up with examples of things that they can do that is relatable. So we were talking about, and I'm going through it in my mind, how it actually came up, about this anxious child who is kind of negative. Okay, I lied. Very negative. Always finding the problem, always seeing the issue. This one didn't do it right, whoever this one might be. The ref wasn't fair, all of that negative. And I pulled back and I realized, how do I convey what I'm looking for to convey in a way that not only these parents can hear me, but then teach it to their child? Back to my model, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the biology is in our genes, but also in our household. The psychology is how we approach it, and the social is in our other part of our environment. So I'm weaving those things in for you. I promise I didn't forget.
I know. I have no doubt. I think that you are the expert here. I'm going to let you do your thing.
So we chose, or I chose, to use the idea that referees throw yellow cards or flags all the time. Red flags, yellow flags, hardly ever a green card comes out if you're a soccer person. I'm a hockey mom, so there's definitely no positive reinforcement for good choices, setting up plays, anything like that. And we talk about football. My big guy, everybody's into football in my house too. You don't see that. So we are conditioned to look at the problems, right? I mean, think about it. Even in dating and relationships, everybody's talking about what are the red flags. Yeah. How about the green flags? What is your kid doing right? What are you catching them doing that's working?
Yeah, you don't want to make a good kid feel like a bad kid because they're constantly being, told, you're doing this wrong, you're not doing that well enough, and you can only take so much.
Yes, and I believe in energy. I'm not trying to be like, oh, woo-woo, but...
No, you're right, though. I mean, we're clearly, if you're around someone who's always a negative Nancy, well, you're going to feel brought down unless you are able to get Nancy to rise to your level. And now maybe you can be a positive influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
sure.
That's part of that, sure.
So anxious people in general, their energy, you feel it. You can feel it when they walk in a room. So if we can lower that temperature by teaching the parents how to do it, even for themselves, because usually the anxious child, preteen or teen, that evokes anxiety in a parent. And then we have that cycle that continues. Hence, break the anxiety cycle has to start from the top down.
Yeah. In our home, we have our oldest and youngest are boys, and in the middle is our 16-year-old girl. And, she has a completely different, I don't want to say set of challenges, but as a family, not her specifically, because she's an excellent young lady and we're very proud of her. But we have to approach things with her differently, a bit more on the sensitive side, and make sure that we talk about things, not just rah, 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 finger pointing and,
Sure.
coming down too hard. There is a time to be a parent, but there's also that time to, hey, do you need to talk? Do you need to cry? Do we, what's going on? We also feel it's important to get very involved in our children's lives, showing up for them, because that has proven to open up that line of communication. When you're involved in school and you're involved in sports, or whatever they're, if they are volunteers at church or temple, or at the YMCA, whatever it is. It could be art, music, anything, right? Because we're a sports family too. We have a lot of relatability in that department. But whatever they're into, if you show that support, you're showing them that you care, right? Just showing up. It's something so simple. And a lot of people have commented, oh my gosh, because our kids go to public high school. And oh my gosh, those schools are so big. Like when our son was at his school, there were 3,600 students there. And I believe at our daughter's school, there's 2,500, I think now, maybe something like that. And I said, but you get involved and you get to know people, and that helps shrink that down, I feel, in any community or any situation. So do you find that encouraging parents to get involved helps with the kids?
100%. And I call that mattering. This is what you were discussing and talking about. Does somebody who is important to me really matter? And how do I demonstrate that they matter? So I'm going to say something, and my kids are going to cringe when they hear it. They also are really into Formula One.
Oh.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. But I'm not against Formula One. It's just that I didn't grow up with it. I don't know it. But it is my joy to learn a little bit and watch and see their excitement.
Yes.
And when I can join with them, with what works for them and matters to them, it actually makes the rest of parenting a little bit easier, because I'm in alliance with my kids.
You are absolutely right. Showing up in that way, like you said, you don't have to love it, but letting them know you love them and you love that they love it. It automatically makes those magnets click together. Yeah, that's
mattering.
So true. So true.
Yeah. And I think about when we talk about kids who are anxious, the first thing, whatever age they are, actually, I think this is how it should be with all children and anybody who really matters, is the reunion. How do we reunite with the people who matter to us each time we see them? Those opportunities for reunion in the morning, after school, just taking 2 seconds to be like, sugar, how are you? Let me squeeze those cheeks, no matter how old they are. And again, my boys don't let me do that. They give me the forehead, which is fine, or the top of the head.
We take what we could get, yeah.
Right. But it's the idea that I'm so delighted to see you. Then we can figure out other stuff. But in that reunion, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
It makes them feel that they matter. And they do. Mm-hmm. Any corrections that have to come along the way are actually easier to make when we are showing up with kindness and generosity.
Yeah, that's true. And make your kids feel better. My kids are the same way. Actually, our 24-year-old was over because he lives on his own now. And he came over to help me with some things the other day. And as he was walking, I was going right behind him and pinching his bottom. And he didn't even flinch. He was just like, yeah, okay, whatever, you know. And our youngest, who is 9, he'll be turning 10 soon. Mm-hmm. He is the complete opposite. Like where his older brother didn't care. I could literally hug him and kiss him right in front of his high school in the car line. And he didn't care. Oh, but my little guy, he's like, turn the radio down. I don't want my friends to hear what you're listening to. Do not hug me and kiss me before we make the turn. And don't talk to me as I'm getting out of the car. You know, like I have all these rules, right?
And what's amazing about that experience that you're sharing right now is the opportunity to say, hey, is this about me or is this about the stage that he's in?
Right.
Parents who take that personally actually mess that up, right? That's actually not about us as a parent. This is what they're going through in the sense of who am I? I don't want to be judged. That's the fear of judgment. Yeah. Can I be related to by my peers? Are they going to pick on me or make fun of me? Do I have the internal strength to handle being picked on? We all get picked on in a little bit of ways, right? Sometimes bigger than others.
Yep.
But a parent who says, I'm going to hug you and kiss you and I don't care what you think, in so many or not so many words, sends a very different message than, I get you, I see you, you're going through this and I'll go through it with you without shaming, without judgment.
You're right. Shaming is huge. And you know, we're certainly not perfect by any means, but if we consciously make that effort to meet them where they are. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in the 5 love languages. I think that's such a great book, regardless of what you believe in spiritually or from a religious standpoint. I just think that understanding how you can love someone, because some people, like for me, acts of service, when anybody in my life, could be family, friends, whatever, you do something nice for me. Oh my gosh, I appreciate that so much. And we have other, family members who it's gifts, or someone else, it's words of affirmation. So I feel, like I said before, there's no one size fits all, but I love the mattering aspect. And then the reunion, like these are words that you're giving a completely different meaning to and applying it towards family.
Thank you. It's really important to me to share what I know.
Yeah.
I really believe I'm here for a purpose. And I don't just mean like here today sitting with you for a purpose, but if I can help people do this parenting job a bit better, it will, again, teach their children and their children's children.
Right.
So when we think about these parents, all of us have kids with anxiety at some point or another. The idea is that we're trying to get it not to be full-blown disorders.
Sure. And as parents too, we whether we consciously do it or not, we sometimes project those burdens onto our children because of our own generational trauma. Whether it's something that we realize or not, it could be underneath that surface, right?
100%. And what I try and encourage parents to do is say, whose voice is that in your head that you're hearing right now? Because are you actually sharing the information that you want with your child, your preteen or teen, whatever that is?
Right.
So with intention and attention.
And I think that's a nice, healthy, judgment-free zone. I feel like, not even having a full, complete understanding, because we'll never get to that in just one episode. We would have to have 10 of these for people to really understand the gravity of all that. But I think, just from what I'm gathering with your tone, your approach, how you are, connecting those dots, it sounds like it's a nurturing environment and it's a productive environment. Is that?
That's the goal for
Yeah.
sure, to bring people millimeter by millimeter closer to what works best for them.
Yeah.
Right? So again, it's not a one size fits all world. I mean,
Right.
it's just not possible. But how can we show up a little bit better each day for ourselves and give to our kids? And then they will show up in their school, on their sport field, in their relationships, in their job in the future. All it trickles down.
Yeah.
Right? So how do we control our own thoughts and feelings? Okay, and then translate that into information that we're looking to convey. I am a big believer in taking a breath.
Yes. I think that we get so consumed, right? Everything is a now. We live in this reactive, immediate gratification. We want everything now, right? And when I think back to when I grew up, I mean, we're not far apart. I'm going to be 49 in May. And right, growing up wasn't as busy and hectic, right? I feel like we had more time in the day, more time between like obligations and stuff, because now everything is immediate. Immediate food. You can go to the bank and get immediate money. You can send an immediate message. You can, like everything is now. And I've even encouraged friends who are stressed beyond anything, schedule blocks of time with nothing. Like literally keep days on your calendar open, 2 hours here, even 15 minutes in the morning. If you just have that quiet time for yourself, it's a game changer.
I think you're describing FOMO versus JOMO. Fear of missing out versus the joy of missing out.
Yes. I love the JOMO, by the way. I thought
too.
that, like I said, I just think that, you're taking very practical approaches to things that don't sound really scary to change. I think a lot of the times when people think about therapy, it sounds judgmental, or it sounds like they're having to admit their failures and their faults. And what you're sharing with your method is so positive. And it's taking the things that we're already doing and just improving on them.
Or tweaking or highlighting certain things.
Brushing them up. Yeah.
Communication with the anxious person in your life is important. Knowing how to do that in a way that will evoke appropriate emotions, helpful emotions, self-regulate, borrowing regulation. I talk about borrowing regulation all of the time.
What does that mean? This is fun. I'm learning all these new things.
So let's pretend we're on an airplane right now. Okay. So, and there's a bit of turbulence.
Perfect. I have anxiety of flying. So this is a perfect example for me.
Excellent. We're going to deal with a little bit of that right now. Okay. So indulge me. So the turbulence happens, and what do you do?
Immediately think, I don't want to die, and I grab onto my armrests. And then I was always taught by my dad to look at the flight attendants, because if they're not panicking, I shouldn't panic.
And that's called borrowing regulation or co-regulating. And that is exactly it. What a smart man.
Wow.
So we're checking out, how should we feel? How do we digest what's happening by somebody who's supposed to know more?
Yes. Okay.
So you may still feel uncomfortable, but it helps you regulate, okay, the plane really isn't going down.
Right.
Right.
If that were the case, planes would be falling out of the sky on a daily basis.
And now you're talking about using your frontal lobe, rationalizing, and staying away from just the amygdala and, here's my biopsychosocial stuff, right?
Yes.
How does our brain take over? So our panic mode, the adrenaline rushing, all of those kind of things. That's the biology piece of it. Now we're using the cognition. You're right. Planes aren't falling out of the sky. Okay, here are some of my context clues.
Right.
The flight attendants are kind of calm. They're just procedural, right? You can feel their energy. They're getting stuff done. They're not freaking out.
Yeah, if they're still pushing the cart and serving beverages and passing out blankets and headphones, I don't need to be over here, with my head in my knees. I mean, I'm fairly rational that way. I think for me, I've noticed with my own experience, and I've shared this in previous episodes, I've done EMDR therapy for trauma after going through incredible circumstances with the loss of each of my parents and then my grandma, it was difficult for me as an only child to overcome all of that. But I wanted to give myself the coping tools. And I also wanted to show my children that it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to learn how to deal with something and have somebody help you do that and teach you how to walk through it. And so reprocessing those emotions helped me a lot to not be paralyzed in fear or to, to lash out with those emotions on someone who doesn't deserve it, right?
And what you demonstrated is what you do not change, you choose.
Ooh.
What you do not change, you choose. So you chose to change something, and it did change things.
Absolutely,
But if we sit and don't do anything about what's happening, we're choosing to stay there.
Yeah. And that was, that was important for me. And I think, the program that you created, and I have a very important question. I made a note of this because I wanted to make sure to ask because I want the listeners to know because we're going to share your website and get the knowledge out there. Can this be done from anywhere?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have the capacity within your practice to work with someone remotely anywhere in the world.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about this kind of psychoeducational information, it's not the same as traditional psychotherapy. And therefore, yes, anywhere. So for me, I would encourage anybody who's interested in learning more about how to break the anxiety cycle to go on the site and watch the free training. There's a reason there's a free training with a whole bunch of tips in there is because my gift is to share it and then help people along. Yeah. Not forcefully, just how can we do this better?
I'm not going to wait until the end of the show. We're going to make a note here. breakanxietycycle.com. Break, B-R-E-A-K, anxietycycle.com. That's the website. I've been on the site perusing, getting so much information. The first thing that stuck out in my mind was, wow, me too. Oh my gosh. Has she been following me around and wrote this website specifically towards me and my life and my parenting and my kids? I also think that, I know you talk a lot about teens, but I really think that a lot of this can be started with children of any age. Is that right?
Yeah. So we are not, my partner, her name is Tamar Oppenheimer, is a clinical social worker. And she and I work with and have people in this group. We're talking about middle schoolers for sure, high schoolers, because our teen concept has come down to like the preteen area. Children are younger children or school-age children are a little bit different because sometimes we have issues or situations that are a little bit different socially, right? Whether it's smoking or vaping or drinking. Most third graders are not dealing with that.
Thank goodness. My gosh.
Right. But oh my God. Yeah. So when we talk about the older kids, the middle school and above, the social kind of pressures that come along with being in that age range and what goes on with social media is not something that most third graders, I'm just picking on third graders at the moment, are engaged with in the same way. So we really have onboarded a number of families with kids in that, preteen through teenage years. And it's been really helpful for so many families to be in this together, learn from each other, take the tools we have, bounce the ideas off each other, and be a bigger community for everyone. And it really is born out of the ideas I can only help who I can help with my hands in my 50-minute sessions. And then, yes, their children and the children's children. But how do I help more people?
I think it's like anything in life, really, and please correct me if I'm incorrect. It's like having a gym membership. You can have the membership, but if you don't go regularly and, possibly even meet with the trainer, learn how to use the equipment, you're really not doing yourself any service. And I feel that any form of therapy, if you don't invest and have that structured commitment, it may not be as successful and you're not going to get those benefits, right?
So not only do I love that example, but I look at it even deeper. So if we're thinking about physical therapy, because I'm just finishing physical therapy.
Yes.
So the skills that the physical therapist, the doctoral level physical therapist, and the people who work with them underneath they're really trained to do that. Okay. And you go to those experts to get better faster. And there is a place for a trainer at the gym, but it's not the same. Okay, so in our on-demand world, as you and I were just discussing, there are a gazillion people out there who say they know how to help teenagers or parents of teenagers, preteens, because they have one of their own. You have a larger sample size than a lot of other people. I'm more of that. I have my me search, stuff I've learned over time sitting in my office, working with a lot of families, working in schools, and the research, which is the nerdy part of the schooling that I've been to.
Nerdy but necessary.
Yeah, and the books I continue to read and the ongoing engagement professionally,
Sure.
which is a little bit different. And everybody has a place because people need help.
You're right. And is it your opinion from what you've seen over, the 25 something years now you've been practicing, has cell phone / social media made a negative impact in teen worlds and preteen worlds?
Yes.
Yeah.
Super simple. Yes.
Yes.
We didn't have the comparisons of everybody else's world, and kids don't, and adults actually, don't always remember that what is posted is curated. So let's think about that.
Oh, yeah.
Curated like a museum. You're encouraged to walk through their social media profile for specific reasons. They want to give off an impression, share certain images, convey only information that is positive or to evoke some sort of response from their audience. Even the I'm going to pick on a teenage girl who photoshops all of her, her photos. We know that she must have taken a gazillion of them to figure out the one that she wants to Photoshop, or maybe Photoshop isn't the right word anymore.
No, it's still applicable to our audience.
It's not the right avenue of editing, and then posts it, and everybody sees it, and that engages in the FOMO, the why am I not included, the fear of being left out, the judgment, all of the stuff that goes with the core fears that people have.
Sure.
So when we talk about cell phones, can it be used for good? 100%. Social media can be used for good? Absolutely. Televisions? Yes. All of it.
Yeah, you're right.
And we also have to be aware of what the consumer is consuming. And as a parent, it's our job to be on top of that.
We had a different approach with overcoming things like bullying and, FOMO and all that, because, when we were kids, we didn't have cell phones or, barely had computers. I mean, if you had a computer, you were like, wow, next level. We had to usually use them at school or or library next to the encyclopedias. Yeah. And that was our Google. Yeah. And anyways, I think that when we were growing up, we had to pass notes. We still got made fun of. We still had things to overcome, but it didn't have the ability to spread like wildfire. I feel like it got squashed a lot fast. I mean, listen, I was picked on. I got embarrassed many times. I was bullied in high school. I went through all kinds of stuff. And when I look back on that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like how much worse would that have been if somebody had gotten a picture or video of that bad experience and then sent it to, 1,000 of their followers.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
My best friend refers to Facebook as fake book. And she's like, you know what? We're all just Facebook fine, meaning we're sharing what we want people to know about us, right? And, some people can portray the most perfect, beautiful life. Meanwhile, it's a disaster behind the scenes, right? And kind of like you were talking about with the filters and whatever, we've gotten so accustomed to that. Like I remember last summer thinking, oh my gosh, so many people have traveled and done this and done that. And I immediately fell into that trap. I was comparing our family to those families. And I'm like, why do I care? I'm happy.
So I think of that as the big, beautiful house that has no furniture inside.
Yes.
Right? So the thing that I want to make sure that parents also understand that is different when we grew up is when somebody wanted to talk to you or me when we were growing up, they'd have to call and say, Mrs. Firestone, is Marnee around?
On a phone that was attached to the wall.
So that makes me old for sure.
I'm with you.
And kids today have had a harder time learning some of those socially appropriate behaviors that we grew up with. So then it's our job to encourage them, provide opportunities for normal socialization. And when I say normal, I'm not trying to be judgmental. It's more about these are things they need to learn how to do, how to talk to people, how to ask for directions. To do all of those things, you have to have self-confidence.
Yes.
Self-confidence comes with exposure and practice.
Yes. We always try and teach our children that. I always encourage them to make sure they thank people if someone gives them a gift. I'm a classic, handwrite a thank you. If you have to send a text, fine. But, even if we're out at a restaurant and enjoying a nice dinner somewhere, oh, you would like ketchup? Okay, please ask the waiter or waitress, excuse me, can I please have some ketchup? I try to make sure that they understand that, because at some point they are going to move out and be in the real world, or when they're not with us. They could be with their friends and their friends' parents. I always want to hear that my kids were great. And, I don't want them to be perfect. I want them to be the best version of themselves. We always make sure that word perfect doesn't exist.
I agree. And I say practice makes, and I always pause. What does it make? Practice makes
whatever you make of it.
Progress.
Okay, I can go with that.
Yeah. Not perfect. But we were trained when we were younger. Practice makes perfect. That's what all the kids even say today.
Right. It's just an expression, but I think, we've also changed as a society to where we actually pay more attention to the words. The words have different meanings, and they, more importantly, have different reactions.
Progress.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. Progress.
I think that every parent listening, or someone even who supports a parent, because there could be listeners who are paying attention, who are like, well, I'm not actually a parent, but I'm married to someone who's a parent, and maybe they have, somebody in their life that can use this type of support. I also think that for my, friends and listeners that are teachers, I feel like this is something, if you're struggling with a child in your classroom, you can direct them to this type of a program, and especially knowing that you don't have to be here in South Florida to really take advantage of what you're offering. My gosh.
No, we have people already inside the program that are not from here, from New York, from upstate New York. I have somebody in California. It's important for me to help as many people as I can, because the goal of my soul is to be one of light.
Well, I think you're doing a heck of a job bringing your preference of sunshine and positivity. And I picked up on that immediately when we first started talking, which is why when you were excited to come on the show, I was like, yes, please, we have to share this. And if you have the opportunity to reach out to Dr. Firestone, I'm going to call you that now, because even though she's my friend, Marnee, but she is also an accomplished doctor on many levels. Not just by education, but by her experience. The gifts that she is offering, I encourage you to go to the website. Again, it's breakanxietycycle.com. Dr. Marnee Firestone.
Hey.
I hate that we have to wrap up, because we could literally talk.
Please have me again.
I think that the listeners are going to let me know that they want you back.
I love it. I do that. I'm happy to do this for you. I do it as a parenting for younger families in a different capacity. I volunteer and give back as much as I can, because it feeds my soul, and then I can help others, and it makes the world better.
That's music to my ears. I wish that everyone that was in the medical field, in whatever discipline they're in, had that same outlook, because I feel like insurance companies and the medical field in general would look a whole lot different for everybody. I would like to thank everyone so much for tuning in. Please comment and share this video and let us know what you thought and what other topics you'd like to hear Dr. Firestone share about, because I promise we're going to bring her back.
Yay.
And we're going to talk about lots of great things. Please go to her website. Again, breakanxietycycle.com. Again, share this episode. I hope you loved it. And if you did, don't forget to offer a 5-star review. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.